Today on the Topping Show, Vivek on shutting down the ATF and the Ruby Ridge massacre. Anheuser-Busch Cold One tweets gets some cold comments. Ray Epps gets a slap on the wrist for January 6th, fueling the theory that he is in fact a Fed. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise to buy Juniper Networks for $14 billion. Miller Lite to debut beer mints. And Ford Focus, well, it did not have enough focus apparently because it is being recalled. All of that much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Guys say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of January, so if you click that button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Hewlett-Packard Enterprise to buy Juniper Networks for $14 billion in all cash. Now, this is pretty surprising to see my former employer go out and buy yet another networking company, especially at that price point. That's a 32% price point premium on the current Juniper stock price. Now granted, that fluctuates seemingly every microsecond, so by the time this video is rendered and published, that 32% premium might be more or less depending on what it's trading at, but still is one of those instances where Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, they say this is going to help them with their AI computing, and maybe. So Hewlett-Packard used to have a very rudimentary networking technology, especially for Wi-Fi. It was one step above Walmart Wi-Fi, which again, if you're a business, which is again Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, they are exclusively for business environments, unless you're a techie like me and you like having some enterprise gear at your house. But if you go to somewhere like Nebraska Furniture Mart, and you look up at the ceiling, you'll see some Aruba Networks gear. Same thing at Home Depot. You'll see some Aruba Networks Wi-Fi. I forgot the AP or the access point model number. But nevertheless, it's a fun game. If you ever go to a store, you like to kind of nerd out like me, play the iSpy game for the networking access points. But nevertheless, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise was best known for servers and storage. Subsequently, they bought out Aruba Networks, which is formerly founded and CEO by Kirti Moti, a brilliant engineer and founder, in fact. And that was pretty good. They had some great, they were really, really best known for Wi-Fi technologies, being easy to deploy and manage. And HP bought them out. They treated them almost as an independent subsidiary for the first couple of years, which I think is the best way to really get a lot of benefits, since you're able to move, as a company, you can move more agile, helps customers better. There's a lot of upside to that. And subsequently, Kirti is no longer there, unfortunately, and it's one of those things where it's become more integrated into the parent company, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. And Juniper Networks, if you look at like your networking options for IT or enterprise IT, you have Cisco, which is the 800-pound gorilla. They more or less invented the whole product category, and they have well over 50% market share. And there's even an age-old saying, no one ever got fired for buying Cisco. Though when I was a field representative for Aruba Networks, I would always joke and say, yes, but no one ever got promoted. Why not be bold and try something different? But nevertheless, you basically had Cisco, then you had Aruba, which Hewlett-Packard Enterprise bought, and then you had Juniper. And then you have some other companies that you could debate if Fortinet is really a networking company. They're a firewall company that later became a networking company, making wireless access points, switches, and now even phones and more things than I could possibly count. So they've expanded exponentially, but in terms of the industry categories, there's not a lot of networking options. There's basically the big three. One could perhaps compare it to the Detroit automotive companies. And I'm not sure if the SEC is going to sign off on this, because in terms of options, this really narrows them down. Now, it looks like, looking at the article from Emma Thorne over on LinkedIn, they noted that, again, it's a $14 billion bid, and it's going to be, the goal is to boost their artificial intelligence, which there is some great intellectual property. Juniper Networks, I believe, is fiscal 23 Q2 or Q1. A couple years ago, perhaps, they actually bought out Mist, which is kind of a funny name when so many things in IT are compared to vaporware, which is things you advertise but never actually come to the market. Now, Mist was a very well-known enterprise wireless access point company that utilized a lot of AI technologies to make the solution easier to deploy and manage and maintain. And Juniper went out and bought that company, since Juniper was best known for switches. Switches not being the Nintendo Switch, but the switch where you have lots of Ethernet, all the cables plugged in there. trying to make this somewhat rudimentary so you can understand it on a conceptual level, not have to dive into the details. So Juniper did buy out Mist, and that's been integrated into their full stack of solutions. Now, Juniper switches, though, the architecture is very different. It's kind of like in some cases, almost like a different language. You have people that are Cisco guys. They train. Cisco also has a great monopoly on the training community, the certifications. So there's some. It'll be interesting to see, like, how does this integrate into Hewlett Packard Enterprise, their legacy switching technologies, and with Aruba, the interfaces in terms of your online management. Perhaps hopefully I'll get upgraded. It's been lacking past couple of years, unfortunately. Maybe it's just nostalgia, but myself included, a lot of people I talk to when it comes to the user interface, like somewhere when you're logging in to make changes in your home network, when you log into the Aruba portal, it's not as great as it used to be before HPE bought them out and started integrating it more into the HPE portals. So it'll be interesting to go through it. Now, in the article, they did note that, let's see here. Thanks to increased antitrust scrutiny by the U.S. government, there may be some calls to investigate this to see if it creates a duopoly. Because, again, the actual size of Juniper Networks in terms of the market isn't that big. Don't get me wrong; it's still a little bit over $1 billion, I believe, per year revenue, which again, that's a lot of money. But for tech companies, when you look at Cisco Networks is, I believe, it's like $40 or $50 billion a year. Excuse me. So in terms of they're probably the smallest, biggest IT company I could probably think of, where they have the name recognition. They've been around for decades. They had a pretty good market share in certain niche applications, and K-12 really appreciated them because they're a lot of times they're more economical price point. K-12 being public education, kindergarten through 12th grade. So, but now if this does go through, you'll have HPE, Aruba, and Juniper. Then you'll have Cisco. I mean, you could argue Fortinet, but again, their main bread and butter, where they make most of their money, is firewalls. The switching and networking is in their core competency. You could argue Arista Networks. They are growing. I think they're best known for data center enterprise switches, which many of these companies are. But when I say the data center switches, the largest ones are almost the size of a smart car. Well, not watt, about give or take. So it'll be interesting to see if this actually goes through. But this is pretty big news in the business world, especially in the tech world, where, again, HP's done a couple acquisitions. They bought Silver Peak last year, which helped them bolster the SD-WAN offerings. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens to legacy products. I mean, realistically, this hopefully will not affect end users in a detrimental way for at least, I would say, 36 months. When you look at the time it takes to integrate a new part of the business into the legacy part of the business, in terms of, well, actually integrating it technological wise, as well as sales representatives, customer support, that'll take quite some time. But it does beg the question, what's going to happen to the legacy switches? Or are they just going to take the software, the intellectual property from Juniper, overlay that, and let the legacy actual hardware for Juniper die, which might be the most likely outcome? We saw this with Hewlett Packard Enterprise when they bought out SimpliVity, which was that was more data center hybrid server storage, hybrid converged rather is the industry term. And then you did see them. Well, I'm trying to think of the other. It was SimpliVity. Then they had another one, which escapes me. Nimble, actually. So Nimble was a huge storage company. Again, they had predictive analysts they had predictive software technologies that would actually know when your hard drives are going to fail before you did, and that was basically the secret sauce that made Nimble Technology a great storage solution. So Hewlett Packard Enterprise subsequently bought out that company, and for a while you had the HPE storage where it was just that product. At first just rebranded it, but then eventually that technology, that software, integrated it into all their storage solutions. Now it's going to the servers, and subsequently there's no more Nimble storage. I believe it was within the first 12 months the sales reps were all let go. The support stayed for a little bit longer. But I think this might be a very similar situation where you just have the intellectual property and the software from Juniper Networks and subsequently Mist Networks, and they just put it onto the Aruba portfolio. For, again, Aruba being that was the networking company HPE bought out. And truth be told, I should have brought an access point to put on the table. It's a little display accoutrement. But nevertheless, it'll be interesting to see. But let me know in the comments, do you think the SEC will shoot this down? Again, Juniper doesn't have a huge part of the market, but they themselves are one of the biggest. So it's not like they own, I don't even think they own double digits in terms of the market share for Juniper. But let me double check these details real quick. I'm trying to see. Let's see here. And of course, hindsight's 2020. After this news, Juniper, their stock jumped up. Interestingly enough, HPE actually went down a little bit, perhaps because they're so concerned about other past integrations where they didn't make money off the acquisition or just wasn't as smooth as they planned. But yeah, let me know in the comments. Do you think this will go through? And then let me know if you want me to cover more tech news. In the business part, I try to keep it pretty diverse, though. I obviously have my bias. I'm a big of a gearhead, so I usually like to follow the automotive community, the tech community. So let me know in the comments if you want me to continue to diversify the different business topics that we do cover in the show. And of course, as I always say, more feedback, the better. Thank you again, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of January, so if you click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a thumbs up and a comment is a great way to give me some additional feedback, so let me know how I can improve the quality of the show. Also helps with the YouTube algorithm and helps some more people see it. Also, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.